throwing it back to episode 11 about forgiveness and how
there we go.
We didn't really touch on humbling yourselves when you're forgiving somebody, right? Because in Colossians 3:13, forgiving one another the same way Jesus forgave you. Yeah, I messed up, right?
Dude, let's
humble yourself.
I can't get past that. Let's not get past that. Because. Dude, it's actually pronounced
no W
because.
I couldn't get past it. I almost got past it and I saw you, Wes.
Yeah.
Wes and I feel it. I tried. Feel Wes over here.
Do you have another verse from Colossians?
No.
Don't worry, Joyce. We'll cut that
out. That's the only verse. It's Colossians 3:13. There's nothing before it, nothing after.
I got past the because.
You're the only one on my team right now, dude. I'm going to walk.
Joy, get out of here.
Okay, so Colossians 3:13 talks about forgiving one another the same way that Jesus forgave.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Campfire Council podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Make sure to click that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment. Also, feel free to leave some comments. We'd definitely love to do a Q&A at some point down the road. So any questions, comments you guys have, feel free to leave them down below the videos. And at some point we can definitely go through that and answer some questions. But off of that, Emil, if you want to go ahead and take it away for the episode. All right, guys, we are talking about wisdom today. So we're going to start off with asking the question, what is wisdom? And that's a good question. What is wisdom? I think the best book on wisdom that exists, it's obviously in the Bible. It's called Proverbs. And it's funny that, like, Proverbs, I don't think Proverbs gives, like, a actual definition of wisdom. I could be wrong, but I think Proverbs just kind of describes how you can be wise and why you should be wise, and like what are the conditions that are necessary to be wise. And it's almost like assumed that people have an idea of what wisdom is. And I think naturally we do have an idea of what wisdom is. My definition from reading Proverbs is that wisdom is a competency in applying one's knowledge and morality, godly morality, to the real situations that you come across in the world. And the reason why that's important is that the Bible is full of moral stories. It's full of moral rules. But I think anybody reading the Bible is going to realize that the Bible is finite in a sense. There's like infinite meaning in the Bible, and the stories and morality of the Bible apply to any situation in life. But it doesn't explicitly state this is what you need to do in this situation. And now that we live in 2024, which is a long time away from the events of the Bible, we come across a lot of situations in life that are kind of alien to the events of the Bible. We deal with technologies that didn't exist, nations that didn't exist. We have social interactions that are strange relative to the Bible. So wisdom is the skill or the competency to be able to deal with those situations in a godly way. And I think that's a good place to start the discussion. Brandon, do you have thoughts on what wisdom is, as far as like the definition of it?
No, dude, I think you pretty much hit it right on the head. But I would say, yeah, wisdom is just that knowledge of truth in life, and wisdom has to be something that is it can kind of be applied to different scenarios too. And it's not like one piece of wisdom is like applicable to everything. Like wisdom isn't like a countable thing. It's just like an idea almost. And it's something that's granted by God, and we need to be seeking that out in order to have that. It's not just like you wake up one day and you have wisdom. Like you need to seek that out, I think some things, like the difference between knowledge and wisdom is knowledge is simply just knowing like how to do something, but knowledge is knowing the appropriate time to apply it.
Wisdom is the knowing the
wisdom.
appropriate time.
Yeah, if I switch those two off.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, I think they're very closely related, but wisdom is just like a deeper kind of like intelligence, I would say.
The story that stands out to me, obviously the character of Solomon, who for those that don't know, God basically asks Solomon, like, whatever you want, like whatever you ask for, I will give it to you. And a lot of people at that point, if God asked them, what they want, and he'll give them whatever they want, they would say like, just give me a lot of money, or I don't know, Legos, the most beautiful wife, who knows. There's lots of worldly things that we would, as humans, would naturally ask for. But Solomon, being a godly person, though not perfect, Solomon asks for wisdom. And I think the best story that comes to mind about Solomon's application of that wisdom is the two women that both claimed that a child is theirs. I think it says in the story that they're both like prostitutes or something, and they both have a child, and one of them accidentally lays on her child, and the child dies. And in the night, she realizes that her child has died and switches the babies. So she gives her child to the other one and grabs the other lady's live child. And this is the story according to one of the women that come to Solomon for help in this situation. The other one says no, it's the opposite, basically. So Solomon doesn't know what the truth is, but he's wise enough to apply both his morality and his knowledge and his savvy to figure out what the just decision is in that situation. And so he asks one of his servants, bring me a sword, and cut the baby in half. Give one half to one of the women, give another half to the other woman. And one woman says, no, please don't do this. Just give the child to the other woman. And the other woman says, okay, if I can't have the child, then neither can the other woman. So go ahead and kill the child.
So messed up.
And he obviously realizes who was the real mother of that child from that. And it says that the people actually heard about this story. His subjects heard about the story and feared Solomon because they realized that he had the wisdom to execute right judgment and to rule them. So I thought that was really interesting that people actually recognized and feared that wisdom in Solomon. Do you think that Solomon ever read a story in the Bible or whatever texts that they had at that time that told him how to deal with that situation?
No, and that's kind of what I would wanted to bring up is like how wisdom is definitely gained through experience, and by like not failing or failing through things, different situations in life, you learn from those experiences, which in turn can give you wisdom. Obviously, there's different types of wisdom, but to me, it's like it must be gained through those experiences. And I think I don't know too much about his previous upbringing before, but he must have went through some things that were really enlightening to him.
Right.
Which I don't know if you guys have any clue on what he went through before that made him this wise, because it's not like you're just like born wise.
Well, it does say that God gave him wisdom.
Yeah, that was like a special gift or something.
Okay.
Like, it was almost like a power granted to him.
Do you think it's like God giving gifts people back then is the same way of God giving us gifts today?
I think it can be similar, but I don't know. I think that might have been kind of a special. I've always viewed it as like almost like a superpower or something that God granted him. Because again, it was one of those things. It was almost like you can have whatever you want, and I'll grant it. And so God grants it. But I don't know.
Wasn't he like the richest man on earth, pretty much?
Yes.
I believe
time,
because
yeah.
through the wisdom he
Right.
acquired wealth over time. I
For,
believe.
for better or for worse, Solomon acquires all of the things that people would have normally asked God of. He ends up having like 1,000 wives / concubines. He has
Ugly concubine.
unlimited wealth.
Mulan.
Yeah, call back Mulan. He's Solomon's an interesting character because he has wisdom, but he's not God. He's not perfect. He's not morally perfect in his character, and there's a lot that's wrong with his life, even though he has all this wisdom. But I wanted to say that yes, I think God still gives people wisdom, but Proverbs is a book that's like a how-to guide on how to be wise.
Yeah.
And I've definitely I haven't read it. I haven't studied it a lot in a while, but I need to go back to it. But in Proverbs, like, came to me, God like gave me the desire to read Proverbs at very important times in my life when I needed to become more wise and humble and have those attributes. So I think it's the most influential book on my life.
What does that look like to you when you feel that, like, that calling of you picking up Proverbs like that? Like, where does that come from of like, oh, I should check this out? Is it just a thought?
Yeah, this is a perfect segue into the next subject that I want to go into, because I noted, like, coming out of high school, I noticed that I had a lot of pride.
That was like, what, like 40 years ago, right?
Oh, yeah.
Coming out of high school.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
It was a very, very long time ago. I'm 150 years old, by the way. No.
At least.
Maybe
Maybe more.
Minimum.
But anyway, yeah, I went to high school really late in life. But no, I realized that I cared a lot about what other people thought of me. I didn't want to get things wrong. I would beat myself up if I made a mistake or if I looked foolish in some way. And I don't know. I think I somehow God gave me the desire to start reading Proverbs, and it led me to realize that the reason why I was tormented in a lot of ways, it was because I was worshiping myself. So let's go into the question, what is pride? I think pride is the worship of oneself. Now, I think most people are going to not agree with that definition at first.
What would they say?
Most people are going to think of pride as in terms of like ego, or I don't know, maybe
Just being
like,
cocky.
yeah, being egotistical, cocky when presented with situations in which you could be shamed. You're trying to like stand up for yourself in a certain way,
Holding yourself like above other people.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
situations. So just seeing yourself in a higher position than like other people or anything that you come across, I guess.
That's perfect. And while I agree with all of those things, I think that at a very deep level, what all of those things are is worshiping of oneself. And this goes back to Genesis. So when Satan tempted Adam and Eve, he did it in a very specific way. He didn't say, that the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil will be, very beneficial to you, or you're going to be able to worship God in a better way, or you're going to become a better person. He said, you will become like God, knowing good from evil. Now, there's more to go into there. I don't think it's necessarily bad to know good from evil. I think my interpretation of what the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is that they will have firsthand experience of what it is like to be sinful. I could be wrong about that, but that's just my interpretation of that. But the important point is what was Satan telling them? He was telling them that they will become like God. And that was the thing that tempted Eve and tempted Adam. That they could be the object of worship in their minds instead of God, where God should be. So I think that if you read Proverbs, you're going to find that the book is supposed to be about wisdom, but there's a whole lot in there about pride and situations in which you should try to not be prideful, or what the character of pride is.
So like chapter 10, verse 4, just like paraphrasing it, like the proud are so consumed with themselves that their thoughts are far from God. And I think that's really interesting about like having the word thoughts in there. I don't know, like depending on which translation, if there's a different word for that, but like getting consumed in your thoughts and outwardly. I feel like there's two different aspects there of like showing it outwardly and then like boosting up your ego in your head, because then that translates outwardly.
Mm-hmm. What about like the video you sent us, Milo, with the sketching? Who was that again?
C.S. Lewis. There's a great video. I can link it in the description, but there's a great video on it's a chapter from C.S. Lewis's book Mere Christianity, and they have a person kind of like doodling and animating the words as it's being read, and it's very, very enlightening.
One of my favorite parts on that video is when he's describing when you're looking down on others by being prideful, by whoever it might be, you're looking down on them. Like, how can you look up to God? So that was probably one of my favorite parts of the video, just like a good description of if you're putting yourself above anyone else in any way, our eyes are focused on just being better or more than other people, and we're not focusing on Christ.
Right.
So I just like that imagery. And
I think the weird thing with pride too is, like you're kind of saying, it's not just being cocky. It's not just like having a big ego. Like you can be humble in a prideful way. You can want others to see you, being humble, helping others. Maybe people seek out opportunities to help others because they know they'll be recognized. Like maybe if someone were to see that, they'd be like, oh, wow, that person is really humble, and they'd give them praise. But that's the pride right there. Yeah. That's what the person's seeking. So it's like pride. Yeah, pride is sneaky because it's one of those things too. You say it's the original sin. I like to say that it's the root of all sin, because every single sin that you look at is focused on you. And it's also just like God told you not to do that, but you're choosing to do it. So we're not humbling ourselves and following that.
Right. And sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
No, that's all right.
But yeah. Sorry, I might have to cut this out.
No, we're good. One, from what you were saying, Brandon, about certain situations where you're looking for praise, one thing that I've been learning too, and I heard an example of, is when something happens and someone like shows you appreciation, and you always kind of like, oh no, like it wasn't me. Like, oh, like you kind of, I've been learning that that's more of like a prideful thing to not accept I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like, let's say you do good on a test, you complete something at work, and they're giving you the deserved praise. You're not doing it on purpose to get that praise, but when they give it to you, and you're like, no, like, oh, that wasn't me, and you're like denying it, I found that that's actually prideful as well. By accepting it in a humble way, by just saying thank you, like I appreciate your appreciation for what I did, and not like in a prideful way, but just learning to accept that, right? Because it's okay to do things and accomplish things and like goals,
right?
And accept that accomplishment.
I remember what I was going to say. C.S. Lewis, he basically says Satan is perfectly happy to allow you to become righteous in any other way if you are being prideful about being righteous in that way. So like if you're not lying or you're helping the poor or whatever it is, if your focus is on how great you are and how righteous you are, that's pride, because you're focusing on yourself. You're not giving the glory to God, and you're sinning. Satan's perfectly happy about that. But that kind of goes into what is humility. Humility, I think, is refocusing on life and focusing on God throughout all of your decisions, all of your accomplishments, giving to glory to God in your accomplishments, and not focusing on yourself and worshiping yourself.
Yeah. I think a verse that I think kind of ties into just being able to, well, I don't want to say take pride, but like take pride in the fact that God helped you through something is Philippians 4:13, probably one of my favorite verses. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
But it's not taking pride. It's like being
Proud
thankful or appreciative. Yeah, I don't want to say we're
well,
like
I'm just saying, like,
proud.
taking pride in the fact that, like, God is beside you. Not in a toxic way, though. Like, does pride always have to be in, like, a negative light, you think?
I get what you're saying. I just think it might be a little confusing if we're saying
You're saying
we're
that,
proud.
taking pride of it?
I think
proud that
pride
God
just
is
has a
doing
negative
stuff.
sound.
Because,
to
like,
it from how we
I'm
define
proud
it.
that I'm a Christian. I
Yeah.
take pride in the fact that I'm a Christian. I take pride that I follow
But
Jesus.
what does that mean?
It just means that I'm very, like, thankful, and I'm I give it to God, and I'm very, like, it's humble, like, that I'm
Right.
a follower of Christ, because that's what being a follower of Christ is.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm very joyful that
And I know
I'm a
we use
follower of
proud
God.
in that sense. Like, you could be proud of your children, proud of your parents in a humble way. But I think it gets confusing for people.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely is a healthy way to be proud.
I was gonna say, I think you can be helpful. Yeah.
But it just means that you're not
But
really being proud.
anyway, my point is that whenever you accomplish something, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I think just understanding that Christ will give you the strength. Well, he can give you the strength. Doesn't mean that he always will to get through certain scenarios. I mean, he will get you through scenarios, but maybe not in the way that you expect them to be.
Yeah.
So being thankful, I won't say proud, but being thankful that God does give you those accomplishments and helps you through those times. I think that's a way that we can humbly take that praise.
Yeah. And in my own life, I think there's definitely been moments where I just seen how God has used me and worked through me. And I like couldn't take the glory for those things.
Yeah.
Those moments I think were truly humble moments. But me being a sinful person, I think they're kind of rare. Unfortunately, I have a lot to work on when it comes to pride.
I think that kind of goes with like saying what a fine person I must be to have like done this or whatever, and like like give the glory to God, like thank him for getting you through that. Like you didn't do that alone. That wasn't just you.
Right.
Like you're not like all of that. God is. So.
And I think it's important to know you have to put the work in. So you have to do, us as humans, we have to strive to accomplish these things. But like you're saying, we can't take pride in that by saying, look at me, I did this. Understanding that you took the necessary appropriate steps to accomplish that, but it's through Christ that was accomplished. Not through our own works. But
I thought it was really interesting. I can't remember I think it was in the video, but I re-listened to that chapter of Mere Christianity today. And I think C.S. Lewis wrote Mere Christianity like 10, 15 years before he died. So it was kind of towards the end of his life. He died somewhat young. I think he was in his 60s, if I'm not mistaken.
really, he died that young?
Yeah, I think so. But at the end of the chapter, he says, I wish I had gotten further with humility. Like he's almost like thinking back, I wish God had helped me become more humble, or I had tried harder to be humble, because he says some of the like most amazing moments in life are experienced when you lose the focus on yourself and you're focusing on God. I thought that was really interesting, because we may feel like that when we're older, that like there's certain areas or sins or whatever that we wish we had gotten further in being sanctified from, I guess.
I think a good verse to pair that with is Colossians 3. I don't have the exact verse, but it talks about clothing yourself in humility, compassion, kindness, gentleness, and patience. So like with some of the fruits of the Spirit, but just to have that verse as a reminder, when you're working through these different issues with your pride, I think checking out Colossians 3, because I know there's a couple different verses that it talks about humility in there, but it just kind of gives you that reminder. Wasn't it a few episodes ago we did the fruits of the Spirit, or
It was
when
last
Brandon
one,
was singing.
yeah,
Yeah.
Brandon was giving us a beautiful,
Spirit.
yeah, there he goes again.
There it is. Got me
But
started.
yeah, it's just a great reminder of like, in order to be humble, you need to do X, Y, and Z. These 3 different things in order to have that humility.
Yeah.
So I think Colossians 3 would be a great spot to kind of dive into as well, to kind of
Shout out Colossians 3.
Yeah, to pair it with it.
What about
yeah,
being prideful, not necessarily in yourself, but in other things? So I think you could be prideful in a sports team. You could be prideful in your
Children.
family, your job. I think things that you associate yourself with, but like, what is that? How does that play into this by not being prideful, like in yourself, but in other things that we...
I
that
think
kinda
with that, it's like, I just think about like being prideful in children or something. Like children are almost like your trophies. Like, yes, they're the ones that accomplished it, but it's like, that's my kid. And so the focus, when you're looking at that, you're starting to put the focus back on you, when you shouldn't be focusing on like the praise of what you might be getting as the parent, but you should be giving the praise to the kid.
So do you think with that, then you're almost putting your identity in those things? Because if you think about when you're prideful, you're proud, you're putting
Proud
yourself
feet.
above proud feet. You're putting yourself above others. But then when you're proud, let's say your children, if you have children, you're putting your identity in those kids instead of putting your identity in Christ.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think pride is always about yourself
Yeah.
in some way.
Yeah. Even if it's reflected on something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, with the C.S. Lewis thing, I found like something maybe you guys already know. What the definition of enmity, something like that.
Enmity?
Yeah, like the state of being an enemy or intense hostility. It said like the pride was exactly that. You're like comparing yourself to others, trying to be better in every way possible, and like power fuels pride
Yeah.
or whatever, just being better than that person
Yeah.
or whatever. So when you say like comparing yourself to teams or whatever, you just want to like be better than them all the time.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just like in that video that we watched, it was like this must have been where did C.S. Lewis grow up? Because he speaks in pounds instead of dollars.
England. I
He's
think he was Northern Irish. If
Okay.
I'm not
Irish.
certain about that.
Fish and chips.
But they talk about how like 10,000 pounds or whatever, like I don't know what that is in dollars, but like that's plenty for a man to get through and like be able to please himself with like that money. But we as humans, we simply just want that 20,000 pounds just so that we're like above somebody else. And
I was thinking
do
about
the
that. I think
conversion.
pounds were still backed by gold back then.
were they?
I think
Oh,
10,000
really?
pounds
Oh,
was
wow.
probably like a lot of money. I don't know how much though.
Or C.S. Lewis
What
would
is
actually
the
just...
pounds. What is that like?
Just say pounds in like 1950.
1952.
Or C.S. Lewis was actually just
worth
deadlifting
today.
10,000 pounds.
Right, exactly.
That's
he was
its
trying to
own
get
kind of
to
wealth.
that's about is worth that's 100. So multiply that by that, and then you get $42,000. Oh wait, whoa, just
No,
kidding,
I
just
think
kidding.
it was
No,
probably more than that.
because it's 42,000 pounds today. So what's
Oh.
42,000?
But when did
today?
when did he write that though? Like, wouldn't that be worth more?
Yeah, I'm not so sure about
The
that.
value of the money?
$53,000 or $53,000.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's not that much.
I mean, You can get by though.
You
with
can
that.
get by,
He makes
yes.
it seem like it's a lot more. I don't know. We'll have to look into that.
Yeah, you can.
Going back really quick to the putting your identity in other things. Like think about back to sports team with your kids. It's the whole idea of like when you put pride in your kids, it's the whole thing that you want your kids to be better than any other kid,
Mhm.
or you want your sports team to be better than another sports team.
Yeah.
And that's kind of wild to me. Like even if you can't find yourself to be prideful, you can just pass it along to anything else, and then you can just identify in that specific thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting that C.S. Lewis said that pride is inherently competitive. I don't know if it was in that video because I feel like it was like
With
a
the
condensed
cars.
version. Okay,
Yeah.
was it in the video? Pride is inherently competitive, and I was thinking like, I'm not I wasn't sure if that was true, and he gave an example like if you lust or another sin like that, it's not necessarily inherently competitive, but it could be competitive. Like maybe you want to have like the most beautiful wife or something like that. And I was thinking, well, is pride inherently competitive? Like what if you were alone and there was no people around you? Could you still be prideful? But then I was thinking, pride, if pride is the worship of yourself, God has to exist, right? So you're still being competitive against God. Like even if you were the last person on earth, you could still be prideful because you're worshiping yourself over God. So I think that he's probably right about that pride is like inherently a competitive thing. And I think in my life, one of the, we were talking about this at Bible study, one of the things that has helped me become more humble and not worship myself is the like true realization as I've gotten older that I'm gonna die. Because I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but when I was younger, you kind of like forget that you're gonna die. You sometimes don't really think about your mortality, or it feels like it's so long from now it's not even something you really have to think about. Or you think like almost in a subconscious way, death is something that happens to other people. It's not going to happen to me. I didn't really believe that, but it is something that almost is like in your subconscious to like get you through life. But as when you hit your 20s and you start to see yourself getting older, or your 150s, whatever you guys think I am. But as you get older, you begin to, it becomes a reality in your life that you're gonna die, that you have a limited amount of time left, as you've seen the years go by and you realize you only have a finite time left. But that means that you're not God. That's like the ultimate test of whether or not you're God.
How does it mean you're not God though? Just to, like, for clarification.
Because God doesn't have a finite amount of time left. Obviously, we believe Jesus died, but he has the power over death. He rose again because he's God. Mm-hmm. We don't. That's something that we're never going to have power over. And in a sense, I think that's the most humbling thing. And as you begin to realize that, if you allow yourself to believe it, I think that's one of the ways in which God has helped me to become more humble.
That's awesome.
How are we doing on the camera? Still good?
Yeah, nice.
Sweet.
They look like cameras.
Yeah, nice.
That one over there still looks like a camera.
That's good.
Ooh,
what about that one, Brandon? On the camera still?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little misshapen.
If they didn't look like cameras, does that mean we're in a dream?
Or maybe reality just kind of changed a little bit, just shifted.
What if this was like
God just
an
threw a
escape
Schlitz in there?
room, but we couldn't get out?
Ooh, so it's just like a stay room.
Want to play a game.
Good joke, Brandon. All right, let's move on.
So let's move on to the question of how does humility relate to wisdom? And I think a good way to like kind of jump into this question is think about the situation that Solomon was presented. What would he have done if he wasn't being humble? Because we believe that he made a wise decision. What would a prideful person have done in that situation?
Power, money. whatever your heart
yeah.
desires.
Whoever
Right.
pays me the most gets the kid. Is it
okay.
something like that?
Okay.
Maybe.
Just going off like
I
your
don't know.
gut reaction.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Because you're not really caring about whose child it actually is. You're just
Right.
making a judgment call.
Rather than
Or-
taking that step back and thinking about the whole situation,
Right.
which is hard to do in the moment of things.
Mm-hmm.
When you like taking that, and when you recognize you did take that step back, you're like, oh, nice job, bud.
Oh shoot.
I would also say anything. So depending on the person, whatever you don't have, that's going to put you above the others around you. So maybe if he did have money, it'd be like more power or more land or whatever it is. But maybe it's whatever you don't have at the moment to just put you above other people in that situation.
Yeah, I agree. Why do you guys think you need to be humble in order to be wise?
That's the first step. I know that's like a Bible verse. I think I have
Mm-hmm.
that somewhere right here. But that's right. Proverbs 9:10. I don't know if you already
Okay.
had
Yeah,
that
go
one. But
ahead.
the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Yep.
And I think that's so important. Now, for some people that might not know what fear of the Lord, like that phrase means, it's not literally being like scared of God in the sense that you're like hiding from it, but it's understanding like God is so unfathomably
Killed that. Keep going.
something like
That
that.
was huge.
Powerful or immeasurably. We'll just say immeasurably more powerful than us. Dude, vocabulary is crazy. So that realizing that we are, relatively speaking, we are nothing compared to God, which is in mere Christianity as well. That is the first step to realizing that we don't have all the answers. We do have to turn to somebody else, or maybe we have to turn to other people, not just God, because God works in other people, and I think that God talks to us through other people. So turning to other people, humbling ourselves, not thinking I can do this by myself. I don't need any help with that.
Right.
Like when you picked up the glass.
Yeah. That was fire. Wes and I tried tipping
So much
over 8 by 4 feet glass, and it's just snapped in half.
No,
And
Wes broke it on purpose.
I did.
I watched him do it.
I did.
He kicked
I
it.
kicked it.
He did that
Yeah.
Yeah.
tombstone, whatever.
Exactly.
Tombstone pile driver.
Yeah, that's what he did.
Back to your question, Milo, I would say in order, like you said, in order to be wise, you have to be humble. I'm going to bring it back to love. So you can't be humble. You can't be prideful and love people, I think. Because if you are prideful and you're putting yourself above those people, I don't think you're going to go to the level to love them. So like what's God's biggest, number one commandment is love others as yourself. Well, love your Lord your God. Don't worship any other idols, but love others as yourself. Like those are the two number one commandments. So I don't think if we are not being humble, we can't love people. And in order to love people, we have to be humble.
I think you can love others with still having pride, but I don't think it's going to be to the degree of if you were humble enough. Because like, I'm sure we've been prideful in our own lives, and we've seen people around us that are prideful. And I think like you still have the ability to love, but yeah, maybe it just kind of goes back to that, like you put yourself first, like more times than you should, and you're not loving them like you're not loving them like you love yourself.
Or we could put it as it's more difficult
Exactly.
to love other people
Exactly.
when you have pride in the way.
Yes.
Yeah, love is something it's a intention or care towards other people. So like your focus and intention is on other people. And if you're focusing on yourself, it definitely seems like it would be more difficult to love. But I agree with Brandon that like we're complex. We have lots of like swirling intentions in our minds where we could be in a state of multiple intentions at once. So we could potentially be prideful or and loving at the same time. But that kind of makes it even more dangerous.
Right.
How about like throwing it back to our episode 11 about forgiveness and how
There we go.
I feel like we didn't
Throwing it way
didn't
back.
really touch on humbling yourselves when you're forgiving somebody, right? Because in Colossians 3:13, forgiving one another the same way like Jesus forgave you. Yeah, I messed up, right?
Dude, let's
Humble yourself.
Let's
I can't
not let that.
I
Let's
cannot
not
get
let that
past
go.
that. Because
Dude, it's actually
There's
pronounced
no W in
because,
there.
and it's pronounced unfathomable.
I couldn't get past it.
I almost got past and I saw you, Wes.
Yeah.
And
Wes
I
and I
can
look
feel it.
I
I can
tried.
feel Wes over here.
Colossians.
I was really
Colossians.
judging
Did you
you.
have another verse from Colossians?
No.
Don't worry, Joyce. We'll cut that
That's
out.
that's the
Yeah.
only verse. It's Colossians 3:13. There's nothing before it, nothing after. That's the only verse.
I got you.
No,
Can
but
you
just
read it
like
again though, I got past the because.
you were,
Right?
you're the only one on my team
humbled
right now,
himself.
dude.
I
Joyce, I tried.
it hit me
So
for
I will
a solid 2 seconds, but I was like,
You didn't go there.
just no.
He
yeah,
humbled
I was
himself.
like-
He humbled
said,
himself.
We really
Who
don't
puts
need
a
to talk
W in because?
He forgave me.
No, I was
putting
trying
a
to spell
W.
it. I was trying to spell it. I was like, did he switch the U and the
You
A?
can't spell because without the W.
I'm gonna walk.
Yeah. Joey, get out of here.
Either my shoe's coming off and it's going at your face, or I'm walking.
Can you say it again though?
Yeah, I could. no. Okay, so Colossians 3:13 talks about forgiving one another the same way that Jesus forgave us. And I think in order to truly forgive somebody, you have to humble yourself. Cuz I just don't see any other way that you could forgive someone without having that being like step 1.
Because
In realizing that
people
you're
wronged
flawed.
you.
Yeah, exactly.
They wronged you in some way,
Mhm.
and if you if you didn't forgive them, you would want them to pay you back, or like repay
Exactly.
you.
Yeah.
But to like be humble is to not desire for them to repay you and to let it go. So I get where you're coming from. with
And the big thing with forgiveness, I think we talked about it on that episode, is that forgiveness is a continuous journey. It's not just you forgive them one day and that's it. I mean, maybe if they don't hurt you that bad, it is just like if someone, like kicks your toe or something like that. Right? That
Wait,
happens.
hold on.
Yeah. That happens
It's just
every
like,
day.
yeah.
How does that happen?
Well,
What-
they
what's the
they
story here?
trip over your toe or something, and then like
Just
stub
your toe?
Well, your foot or whatever. We're looking a little bit too into the deep.
right.
He said because. All right, let's not.
Dude, I'm going to walk. I'm going to rack the headphones and I'm out.
You can forgive things like that, and it's just like a one and done, whatever. But when people wound you, they cut you deep. It's something that you have to continuously put your pride aside every single time. When that comes up, you could maybe not forgive them, and then you've kind of stepped back. And I think that's very common, but it just kind of goes back to that, like every single time you got to put your pride aside and you got to say, Lord, I pray that you forgive them, and I pray that I can forgive them. And yeah,
That's so true, dude. You killed that, because
thanks.
it's 100% true. Like, we can all think of people in our lives that we struggled with, and our gut reaction, right? Kind of throwing back to Solomon, like he didn't go with his gut reaction, and our gut reaction could just be like, no, screw this person. It's so easy to write people off. At least, for me it is. That's something I struggle with. And if I allow my pride to get in the way and I don't humble myself, it's like the whole situation's completely different.
think
Because
bring it back to just the biggest part about the Christian story is God sent his son Jesus.
sorry.
Like literally from I'm picturing, like you said, for forgiveness, we have to humble ourselves and put ourselves at that person's level. Like we can't be thinking we're above them, that they don't deserve forgiveness. Christ literally came down to earth as a human on a cross to forgive us.
As evil as it is, too.
Yeah. So
Which
like
is really
that's
hard.
just something I'm thinking about is we have to bring ourselves down off our pride table, our step stool of pride, and bring us into the level where we're seeing eye to eye with that person to forgive them. Because it's very difficult to try to forgive someone when we think they don't deserve forgiveness because X, Y, and Z, I'm better than them, or all these things. So I just like that imagery of God sent Jesus Christ down to earth on the cross to forgive us.
And I think it's because Jesus was so humble that he had that wisdom. I mean, we can maybe get into this a little bit more, but I do think that there was just some wisdom that was just like given to Jesus just because he was God. So he just kind of like knew things. But he drank wine and he knew things. Anybody?
I got it.
All right, sick.
What's that from?
Game of Thrones.
Tyrion.
Oh, yeah.
Tyrion. But there are a lot of stories where Jesus, like, he's able to read somebody really, really well. And I think it's because he's able to put aside his own pride, his own bias, his own personal thoughts, and he can, like, look at someone, like, directly at, like, who they are, because there's nothing clouding his judgment, you know. So some would say he could see through the lies of the Jedi.
You don't say.
Another thing I was just thinking of is that salvation in Christianity is inherently humble, because we can't work for our own salvation. It has to be given to us. So it's like inherently something that we have to be humble in order to have faith in that God will forgive us of our sins, and that somebody else did the work for us. Whereas in other religions, no shade, but it is usually about your own works, or a way in which you can earn your salvation. You can do it yourself.
Shout out to Galatians, a great book for anyone that's struggling with believing that you can earn your salvation. Go through and read Galatians. We've been going through the first couple chapters in our Bible study. Excellent book, just on talking about how Christ, he came to earth, died on the cross, and he sacrificed himself so that we don't have to work for it. The price is paid, and all we have to do is accept his forgiveness and follow in his ways, which I think is a beautiful thing. But go ahead, if you, like I said, if you have questions or struggling with that topic of having to work your way to salvation, go through and read those chapters.
Cool. Let's move on to the next question here. Why is pride dangerous? And what I mean is more like a practical question, like day to day. What situations could we run into in which being prideful is going to lead us into like a dangerous situation?
Yes, Joey.
Milo, pride is dangerous because it gets in the way of our relationship with God. Throwing back to episode number 11 in our podcast on forgiveness.
Cool.
But for real.
Wow.
I was just like the kid in 4th grade that just like always wanted to give the answer.
Yeah.
Just so ready for it.
But whenever you spoke up, nobody heard your voice.
Well, right, yeah, it's super easily zoned
well,
out.
because
Oh,
He's out of there. He's out of there.
that'd be too hard to edit, so I'm not gonna walk out.
Yeah, don't.
But
do
I
it.
want-
Don't
but I
do it,
wanna walk
George
out.
Janko.
dude, I just watched that clip.
Oh yeah.
The Bobby Lee.
Yeah.
Wait, what? He walked
They just
out?
had an episode where they
Yeah.
actually prayed together, I
Oh, they did pray together.
wanna Bobby Lee.
Wait, Bobby Lee
I don't-
prayed?
I don't know if it was
Bobby and George.
Yeah.
So
Oh, okay.
It was a
Bobby
forgiveness.
Bobby said that he believes in God,
Mhm.
and then George Janko was like, "Amen to that." He's like, "But not your God," and he pretty much described that he believes that there is a God, there's a higher power, and he loves praying and like all that
Yeah.
stuff. So George Janko asked if they could pray together, and then Bobby Lee was like all for it. I want to think that Bobby Lee was serious about it. I know
He's also Bobby Lee, so there's always
Yeah.
Bobby Lee,
a comedic aspect to it.
But I think it was a
Remember
video
that?
shared in a positive way that they
Okay,
were,
yeah.
even though they had similar beliefs, but they had different beliefs in like
Mhm.
their God, that they could pray together to like a higher power.
Yeah.
I'm a
And-
huge fan of Bobby, and his story is crazy. Like his life is just crazy from a young age. But he got addicted to drugs, and he at some point, I think maybe in his 20s, he got into AA, and the way he talks about it, I think there was a spiritual component to him getting out of drugs.
What is AA?
Oh, Alcoholics Anonymous.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So, yeah, from just what I've heard, it's helped a lot of people. And I don't know this for sure, but I think Christians started AA. I could be wrong about that. Don't quote me on that, internet. But when he talks about it and some of the experiences he's had in life, I think God has worked on him.
Yeah. Like I like the video. I like to think that it was
Like genuine?
genuine and like serious, but once again, Bobby Lee he's a funny dude.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I hope that it is a genuine thing. So
I mean, on Bad Friends, he like actively like makes fun of it ish. not necessarily mocks it, but I don't know. I don't know.
Christianity.
But yeah.
That's just kind of like a comedian thing.
Right,
you know?
yeah. So I don't
like
think
an
he's
easy
like
target.
serious
They also-
about it, yeah.
George and Bobby have a iffy relationship.
Yeah.
So I was surprised to see that I'm actually excited to see that down the road, the episode that he had Bobby on George Jekyll's show.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
I think kind of going back to your question.
I have to
Why is
pee really
pride- why is
bad.
pride-
Go.
Can we make a quick little cut?
We don't have to cut. We'll just
go
talk.
pee.
Yeah,
about it.
I'm going to talk for a second.
Joe Rogan, just go pee.
Yeah.
Just go pee. yeah, we'll pee.
We can talk about something else.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
We can talk about your Rubik's Cube skills.
My Rubik's Cube skills? Dog, not even skills. It's just memorization.
No, I watched you this entire episode. You know what you did?
What did I
You
do?
switched the colors so that the middle was different.
Oh.
And then what you did is you did like a 5.
Oh, my goodness.
It was sick.
Dude, it's literally a
I don't
combination.
believe it. He took off the stickers and
Yeah.
put them onto one
Yeah,
side.
that's what I did.
I did that as a kid once.
Did you?
Yeah,
Does it
I'll
feel
admit
cool?
Oh,
to
you do
that.
the
Wait, because
reverse.
of pride,
Yeah,
Joey?
Yes, I'm humbling
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
Oh, wait, I see what
You just
you're
wanted
saying.
people to think you were cool.
So,
and
Joey,
so you could do
Yeah.
Rubik's.
You literally just flip the middle,
No, you
the
don't.
middle, flip the middle.
Well, yeah, but you have to solve it to do
Oh,
that.
Oh, that
Cool
was
guy.
not right. Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's true. Putting it back is actually like a puzzle
Yeah,
in itself.
Milo, do you think that answers your question about pride?
Yeah. No, I
Are
want
we
to go
still talking
into.
Yeah.
I was going to just add one more thing. Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were talking about something else.
Oh.
What he's peeing. Beach.
He's ice
I think that
peaching.
pride is the last thing I'll say. Is pride is dangerous simply because it separates us from God. Kind of just going back to the whole thing
Yeah.
of what pride is. It's sin, and sin separates us from God, because God says you cannot get into heaven without me, without Jesus. And so when we don't recognize that, we need somebody else, kind of going back to what I was saying before, we can't make it into heaven.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. But I also think there's like a practical aspect to it as well. Just in my experiences with God teaching me that I was being prideful, I was obsessing over myself, just obsessing over like what other people thought of me, or just obsessing over my skills or knowledge or whatever it is, and it'll destroy you.
Yeah.
It's just it can manifest itself in many different ways. People seek money, they seek status, but all of those things are vain and
Finite.
so just like I totally agree with you that it separates you from God, but in life you will notice how pride is destroying you.
And and like we were talking about before, like you have to be able to forgive people by humbling yourself. And if you have pride, it separates you from people too around you. And if you're only focused on yourself, how can you have people that you can view as equals, as peers, if you're just like, I'm better than all these people? Like no one wants to be around somebody like that.
Right.
And so
that actually is interesting, that I think my relationship with my friends improved as I started to read Proverbs more. It was like a real phenomena. But when I stopped like I don't know, caring about being right all the time, or caring if I got something wrong, or if somebody said something to me that I didn't like. I like C.S. Lewis says, you don't want to stop caring about what people think in a prideful way, like, oh, they're beneath me, I shouldn't care what they think. That's even worse pride. But to stop caring what people think because you're not worshiping yourself and life isn't all about you, and you are given this beautiful life by God, and God is the proper object of worship. That kind of humility will improve practically your relationship with the people around you.
yeah.
What's
Or-
this book again? I think we should read it.
Mere Christianity.
We talking about the video
Except
when he's like,
in an Irish accent, it's never mind. Probably shouldn't.
when he was saying that it's not good to
Huh?
Mead.
not care about what other people like,
Yeah.
or what you think about them.
Yeah. He's saying that's like a more dangerous kind of pride, because if you care, if you're like I think he calls it like a vain type of pride, where you want to look pretty or handsome or whatever. At least you're caring about other people in a way. Like your focus is not entirely on yourself. But if you stop caring about what other people think and just like full on worship yourself, that's even worse. I don't think I ever really thought of that point. That was really interesting.
Yeah, that's got to be some sort of like sickness or something, dude. I don't know. Like That's crazy.
Yeah.
To just view humans as like less
I feel
than.
like you truly then feel like you're a god or something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
really worshiping yourself.
Yeah.
Well, that goes back
Yeah.
to like pride is like power. Like power fuels pride or whatever.
Exactly.
You're just like fueling the hell out of yourself and just
Yeah.
like bringing you up so much that
Yeah.
you're like trying to trump God.
Oh boy, I have a good example from a show. Never mind. We'll talk about that later.
Do it.
in the media. In the media one.
Yeah. So let's go on to the next part. How can we recognize pride and try to be humble, like practically? Do you guys try to exercise this? Is it something that you try to recognize in your lives?
I think there are a couple of ways of doing this. One, I think individually, spending time reflecting, maybe just on a day, just taking one step at a time, reflecting on a day, and thinking, where did I fall short? I think I do this with like sin just in general, but you could focus on pride if you wanted to. And
Yeah.
again, pride is the root of all sin. So technically, if you were able to reflect on a sin, you'd find pride. But I think also, and this is just something we'll just keep talking about in this podcast, is accountability. I think having people that can respectfully point out things in you that could be manifesting as pride, different things that they notice that maybe are just causing you to just be very self-focused. I think having a group of people that you can trust, you got to pick the right people. You can't just pick anyone and expect everyone to be like okay to have that. It helps to see an outside perspective. It's very difficult sometimes, I think, to see truly like our lives sometimes because we're obviously the main character of like our own life, and I think in nature we are just prone to being prideful and just thinking like, oh yeah, no, I'm chilling, like I'm all right, I don't need to work anything. So when you have someone else's perspective, it just helps to then be able to be like, oh yeah, you're right, and being able to take that criticism as well humbly.
Yeah. I notice it all the time, like in my own mind. Just I could just be having a normal conversation with somebody, and I just notice myself going into like a prideful line of thinking, like, oh, I'm so good at this, I'm better in some way, and I have to like be like, dude, stop that. That's you're going back into pride. It's so insidious in a way because it's just like in everything. Maybe I'm just maybe I'm an especially prideful person, but I just notice it a lot in just everyday interactions. Talking on, full on confession. I've been prideful around you guys, and I need to work on that. And I pray about it, and I try not to be, but it's something that's pervasive.
Yeah, but also because you recognize it, that's a
Yeah.
big part of you taking a step to
like humility or whatever.
I think it's a
Right.
lot more dangerous to not recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Because
that's where
then
wisdom comes
yeah,
into play.
because then if you're being prideful but you don't recognize it, how are you supposed to fix it? And I think we all get thoughts in our head, whether it's like yeah, there's a squeak because I squeaked. Like whether it's lust, it's pride, greed, whatever these things, like we're going to get all these things in our head, but it's the step of recognizing it and taking action through Christ to resolve it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one way for me is wanting people to recognize me for things. That's definitely something that I have to catch myself about, like, constantly. Like, I like to the cameras?
No, we're good. We're at like an hour.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I was just curious where
We're good.
Yeah, we can go a little longer.
Yeah.
If we need to stop the cameras, I don't know.
No, we should be good.
Okay.
Stop.
Alto.
Yeah, wanting people to recognize me for things is something I try to work on, and is still like a problem in my life. If people like compliment me or something like that's obviously, just as a human, you like to hear people compliment you, but it's so dangerous to like it pulls you into a
Whoa, my
prideful.
bad. Sorry, time to empty the dehumidifier. My bad.
Getting humid up in the Wantuck household.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you think that's, and I'm not like saying just you,
Yeah.
but anyone in general who struggles with that, including myself, do we think that comes to the root of not feeling like appreciated enough? Because maybe we're seeking that gratification, that
I think
applause.
I'm appreciated plenty. Like
Okay.
I don't think I need any more appreciation. I don't think I'm lacking in appreciation, but it's my sin nature that wants more appreciation from people.
So
That's
how
Joey's.
as friends can we help you achieve that?
I don't know.
Point
I
out
don't know.
every
What does a guy?
mistake.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't.
Talk
What does a
down
guy
to
do?
him.
You could just stop complimenting me. No.
But what if I want
no,
to?
no. But I don't think that's the solution. I think
I think it's a test.
yeah. Everybody has to be able to deal with compliments and not getting compliments or being criticized, and like it's almost like I don't know if it's something that other people can help with other than just being encouraging
Mhm.
and like
Yeah,
keeping
praying.
me accountable. If you guys see me being prideful, like calling me out on it.
I think the problem with pride, though, is like you said, like it can just be in your mind. So I think for us too, and what might be helpful is for us to like bring it out, because like maybe on the surface, like, you know, none of us would see it.
Yeah.
And yeah, this goes on in all of our minds, obviously, those prideful thoughts. So just like expressing those, like you just did, and kind of talking about bringing it to light, because then we can recognize like, oh, this is something that's going on. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I think, you know, there's not like an action we can probably take, just like listening.
We just beat him up.
That's another
Just take
reason.
turns.
That's
It's
humbling.
it's a discipline though. Back to the first 2 episodes of the pod. Go and watch those. Those are great.
We just link every previous episode.
11, 1.
It's a discipline.
3.
Like we're not going to learn it overnight. It's something that
Yeah.
we have to continually practice, recognize. Like
Yeah.
you talked about, you know, you're catching yourself having prideful thoughts. Like we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like learning to discipline ourselves to you know, ask God to help us to get that sin out of our life
Yeah.
and become more humble.
Yeah, it's
throughout that
definitely
end.
something that you have to exercise.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that. Like, let's say a situation where I recognize that I was wrong about something. You can like try to hide it or like try to make it seem like you were actually right because you're caring about other people's perception of you, or you could just recognize like tell somebody, yeah, you were right about that. I was wrong.
Yeah.
That's tough. Like that for me, I don't know, maybe it's different for you guys. For me, that can be hard to like recognize other people.
Just like admitting you're wrong or whatever.
Yeah,
and-
admitting that I was wrong, but that's necessary. I like have to continually do that to like exercise humility.
I think another dangerous thing could be like off the whole being appreciated or whatever. Like the whole thing of work, like getting your like review or whatever, like working towards getting like a raise,
Yeah.
like at work and stuff. It might not be like necessarily bad for some people for like pride wise, but it definitely like poses some danger of like being like too, oh, like I leveled up finally. I'm getting better at my job. Like look at me, like I got a raise. I earned this raise or whatever.
Like when you finally get Damascus.
You level
Yeah.
up 300 in Fortnite.
What's
I-
Damascus?
It's one of the master camo in Call of Duty.
I
Just had to throw that in there for him.
I love that example because I think you can go about because jobs, you know, we as humans we're made to work. You know, it's a form we can worship God by working joyfully and doing our absolute best is definitely a way we can worship Christ. But I think when we take it a step too far is when we take pride in our work because, oh, look at me, I accomplished this project, I took care of this when we were short staffed, I did this and that, and we go to our review and we expect from our managers, our bosses, to get bigger, better raises than everyone else that we work with because we were better than them.
Mm-hmm.
And that right there is prideful because, well, look at me, what I did, what I accomplished compared to everyone else. And I know that's how the workforce works, unfortunately.
Mm.
But I think there's definitely a healthy way you can approach that by realizing that you are doing a good job. There's nothing wrong with understanding you did a good job. Like we want to make sure we do good at work, in school, in sports, everything, but understanding that we're no better than anyone else. Like, we need to keep ourselves humble in that situation, not expecting because of what you did, you are expected to get something in return.
Yeah, you're not like worth more
Yeah.
or whatever
As a
as a human because you're doing better or whatever.
As a human.
Oh, we got to mention one really good point that C.S. Lewis brought up, and this one really hit me, is one way you can know that you're prideful is
that's right.
when you hate pride in others.
Mm-hmm.
And I struggle with that a little bit, because I do think we should hate pride, and we should hate pride in ourselves and in others. So I think the way that C.S. Lewis speaks in that sense is a little bit too broad. So I think he needs to like clarify what he means. But I think what he means is not necessarily that you shouldn't dislike or hate pride as a sin, like we should hate all sin, but that if you are letting other people's pride like bother you in an emotional level and cause you to become prideful, that's a way for you to recognize. That's a test for you to recognize that you are actually being the one that's prideful.
What about like taking the plank out of your own eye, or the sliver out of your neighbor's eye when you have a plank in your own? So maybe it's you're seeing these things and it's bothering you so much because, well, look at this person, they're being prideful.
Yeah.
But we're seeing the little sliver in their eye when we have this massive plank in our eye and being prideful in our own ways. That's maybe what he kind of means.
Yeah.
But
no, I think that's 100% it. Yeah. That. Yeah. It's strange. Because we should hate pride. We should hate the planks or the specks in other people's eyes, but it's kind of like focus on you first.
it's so hard to do.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the last question here. Do you guys have examples of wisdom, pride, or humility in media? Or I mean, I have written down here in life and in media, but I think we've already kind of talked about like examples in life. So let's just talk about like in media.
Well, I think.
Okay, Brandon.
I think I was so happy to find this one, but it's one of Milo and I's favorite characters. But it's Prince Zuko. It's little Uncle Iroh.
Okay,
here,
he's a good character.
Yeah,
that's a good show.
That's a good show.
That's okay.
That's a good show. But he says, pride is not the opposite of shame, but its source. True humility is the antidote to shame.
Wait, Zuko says that?
No, sorry. Uncle Iroh says
Iroh. Okay, yeah.
No, Zaki
Why is
says
it-
that.
That's
Zaki.
that's
Zaki.
that's great.
Isn't that fire?
Yeah.
That's
So that's
I think that's
super
when
fire,
he's
right?
teaching him how to redirect lightning.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
We had a camera go out, but that's okay. We'll finish up.
Oh
Okay.
shoot.
You guys want to just come over here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, ours went out too. Yours went out over here?
Just the one on you.
I got you.
Oh, on us. Okay. So we got to go over there. Yeah. That's a great example. Any others?
That was the big one.
Okay.
That was a
No,
big
yeah, that's such a great story, dude. Like, I think anti-heroes in general, I think of Vegeta,
one.
kind of like a similar character to
Yeah.
Zuko in a way. But remember Vegeta, when he's trying to be a Super Saiyan, he's like, I think of the abridged version.
Yeah,
I want to be a Super Saiyan.
I want to be
Yeah.
Super Saiyan.
And then
I'm gonna put in another battery quick. You can keep talking.
you would like that show.
Yeah, you said you would like. Noah likes that show.
Wait, where are
Dragon
we?
Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z.
Where are we? Dragon Ball?
Yeah.
No more. That's it. I don't care.
But yeah, exactly. Remember when he becomes a Super Saiyan, he's like, it's when he stopped caring.
yeah, he had to put aside his own.
I was
that
like,
pride. Yeah, that was
so everyone
cool.
thinks that Vegeta's just all about like pride and ego, and that's true to a certain extent. But I don't think people realize like what made him able to become a Super Saiyan was humility.
Yeah.
And like no longer caring about
Right, comparing himself
or
to
like
Kakarot.
trying to
yeah.
be better than Goku.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
that's a good one. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. I like that.
The other one went out too.
Oh, shoot.
It is Dunzo time.
We could just do audio.
Yeah.
Just do audio.
No, we can. I'm changing it. We're good.
Oh, okay.
charge these while we're just keep. Give me 1 second.
Gonna change him.
Charizard.
Charizard. Oh, by the way, go check out the Instagram.
True. Box.
we're gonna pull up Charizard for sure this time because it's
That's
guaranteed.
Guaranteed. How do you feel about guaranteed packs?
It's a little bit of a cheat, and
Yeah.
those cards are always like less cool than
Yeah,
the other ones
EX.
that they have. But
But EX is still cool.
yeah, you just kind of like humble yourself.
Right. Yeah, just gotta like humble
Yeah.
yourself.
I think Uncle Iroh, just in general, has a great like arsenal of like wisdom.
Yeah, dude.
He's got so many quotes. He's just got so many just wise quotes.
Yeah.
Well,
Like-
at least they're hitting that side of the audience.
Well, no, it's just wisdom
Haven't
in
you
general.
seen Avatar: Last Airbender?
That's
No.
not. That's not.
Remember,
even anime.
Gigi showed me the very last episode.
Oh, yeah,
That's all
dude.
I've seen.
I'm still.
Dude, you would
I'm
like
still
it.
getting
even,
over that.
Even if you've seen the last episode, I think you would really like it. It's a great story.
it's not anime, if
yeah,
that's
it's
what
like
you're wondering.
it's like a cartoon.
Yeah, it's more of a it looks
just- yeah, it's
looks
just
so
cartoon.
different compared to like Demon Slayer.
Yes, it for sure. Like it doesn't. I mean, it has a little bit of the anime elements because of Sokka. Sokka's a little silly. He's kind of like that silly comic relief character.
Okay.
yeah, but
but-
he's not. In
But it's
anything
not.
like Zenitsu.
Yeah, it's not. It's not the same as Demon Slayer.
Yeah.
It's for sure not as intense as Demon Slayer. As far as
Yeah,
like
that's
the
for
fight
sure.
scenes,
Yeah.
the fight scenes are way crazier.
It's a little more kid friendly.
Yeah, exactly.
Fight scenes are insane.
Hirokami Kagura.
Okay.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Wait, can we start?
Master.
Yeah, we're good.
They're
We
both
got the
up.
cameras rolling again. I'm charging the other ones right now, and we are back.
Wait. Oh yeah, you clapped already. Oh shoot. I thought
That was the first time I've ever done that. He stole my thunder.
I kind of want to clap now.
It's all right.
I feel the urge to clap.
I'll try to
Sorry.
put my pride aside.
I wasn't paying attention.
We are back, baby.
We're not gonna cut on all that though, right?
Nah, we'll keep it in.
I'd sick.
Oh, just as audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for that small portion, yeah, we'll keep that audio.
Okay.
Sick.
All right. Do you guys have some examples in media of wisdom, pride, or humility?
Yeah, I would say when it comes to media, social media, life in general, it's so hard to be humble when we're always. Sorry.
It's okay. It just happened.
Oh jeez.
I would say it's hard. Like jealousy comes up when you go on social media. You're scrolling through, you get jealous. But it's also, I catch myself like looking down at people, being like, oh, someone from high school or someone from the past. You're like, oh, they're only this far in their life, and you're putting yourself above them. I catch myself doing that. Yes, Trilo.
This is a great line of thinking. However, my question was more, do you have an example of a character or something like that in a movie or TV show that like utilized
Yeah,
humility?
Oh,
or
yes.
yeah.
Social.
Yes.
I didn't
Yeah,
explain it.
look.
properly.
So it represents like wisdom or humility.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, kind of like you
Okay.
mentioned.
Yep.
I would say there's a lot of characters. I mean, one, talk about Frodo to start off. You go back to the Fellowship of the Ring, the first movie, where everyone's arguing who's going to take the ring, which represents sin in Lord of the Rings. Who's going to take this burden and go on this long, difficult journey? And the smallest person, he's a hobbit, in the room stands up and says, I'll do it. And he has the courage to, one, be wise, understand that, I think also humble themselves. But you have examples of Gandalf, Aragorn, people who are wise and humble to sacrifice themselves and help go on this journey with Frodo to destroy the ring, which represents, like I said, sin. And
Wow, that was
was
loud.
was that a stomach?
Wes has awakened something
You gotta
evil.
grab some big
The Belrog. Yeah. But I mean, like, there's plenty of quotes that
Unreal.
Gandalf gives for wisdom. Like, he represents Jesus in the movies in a
Yeah.
way, and he does sacrifice himself. For a little spoiler, but
Yeah.
it's a great movie overall. It gives good examples of just learning to put yourselves not above others, but sacrifice yourselves for like the greater good,
Yeah.
and for other people that you love and you care about, and not holding yourself above anyone else.
So I was re-listening to Fellowship of the Ring.
That's right.
audiobook.
You're saying, yeah.
I don't really read books. I just listen to them. But it's hard for me. I don't have a good attention
If it
span.
works for you, it works.
Yeah. But I was thinking there's so many aspects to that story that are applicable to life and this idea of wisdom and pride. Gandalf is humble because he recognizes that he can't fight the power of the ring. I thought that was that kind of interesting. Like he, even Gandalf knows he's like a Maya. He's a super powerful wizard, but he knows that he has to just stay away from it. It's like, I think it's in Proverbs where it says like flee from lust. Maybe that's in the New Testament. I don't know, but like flee from sin. Gandalf flees from the ring. He's like, it needs to stay away from me. Don't let me even touch it because I can't handle it. Like it's gonna gain a power through me that's gonna be terrible.
He says, "I will do good, but through me,
Yeah.
I will do like great evil or something."
Right.
And we
Also,
go
ahead.
Is it the same thing?
It might be.
3, 2. Okay. I was just gonna say you see the same thing with Lady Galadriel, with her getting tempted with the ring, and then realizing what she could be, that she could be the queen of all the lands.
Yeah.
And to just be this massive power, but she also humbles herself and realizes that she even says that she passes the test.
Yeah.
Like as soon as like the not so great quality of her realizing her power.
Yeah.
You can clip it.
That scene is really cringy. That's like one scene I don't really like.
It's not my favorite.
Where she turns
but
green.
Yeah, where she turns
dude,
green
it
and
looks
it's all.
weird.
But she
That
like
and when
passes.
Bilbo like loses it, he's like, "Ah!" I hate that scene, dude.
That one
so
too.
creepy.
Those two scenes, yeah. I mean, that's just how it was back
Yeah.
then, with the editing and such. But yeah, she realizes that she passes that test, and then she finds like that piece of like, because that was weighing down on her, of she was so close to the ring, and then she passes it, and she realizes that she rose above the situation.
Also, just to kind of wrap it up with the Lord of the Rings thing, we can move on. But I think probably one of the best examples is that the third movie, when everyone goes to the Black Gate, and they realize like, hey, it's like we're outnumbered like 10-1, and they're just like, we are going to sacrifice ourselves to give time to Frodo and Sam.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that represents like friends willing to go above and beyond, to help your loved one, your friends, to accomplish, whether it's like that addiction, the struggle they might be going through with work or relationships, whatever it is, to do what they can to help those people get rid of that burden.
Yeah.
Just like a great community example there of just what it looks like to be good Christian friends.
I actually don't want to move on from Lord of the Rings just yet.
I love that. Yes.
On the flip side of it, the ring symbolizes sin and temptation, yeah, but there's prideful aspects to it as well. Like think of Isildur when Elrond is saying throw it into the fire, and he turns around and says no, and that he's like, I can handle it. I can take hold of this power and use it. There's Bilbo, I'm pretty sure he says like, why shouldn't I have it? The ring came to me. These are all like the aspects of pride, again popping up in relation to the ring, of like people thinking that they can contend with it. They can become like God.
Yeah, that's a great example. Such a good movie.
Yeah. It's just, I didn't really appreciate the books as much when I was younger, but having like listened to the audiobooks, they're very good.
Also, shout out me.
Yes, let's go, Luke.
I just finished the Fellowship of the Ring.
I don't think I've read the last one.
Whoa.
I think I need to. Yeah.
Should.
I think you should.
So now what?
Well, how about you? Do you guys have any examples of like a movie or TV show or something like that where there's pride or humility? My go-to.
That was my.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
That was my.
Oh, okay.
Go-to would be.
Yeah,
Lord
yeah.
of the Rings. That was the first thing I thought of.
My go-to for pride is Breaking Bad.
Oh.
I think Breaking Bad is all about pride and like how pride will destroy your life. I don't know if they even intended it. It would be interesting to look into like the writers of Breaking Bad, but the spoiler alert.
Wait.
Cover your ears.
Oh, hold on. I gotta cover up here 'cause I'm gonna get to that show eventually.
Also, let's try to wrap it up in
Okay,
about
just
10. I
give
just
me,
don't
like, a
want the
thumbs up.
cameras to overheat, but keep going.
Remember the scene where like Mike is by the river,
Yes.
and he's like, "We had a good thing going,
Mm-hmm.
but you had to do it your way or something like that." He's like, "You and your pride." Like,
Yeah.
like it's
He
he's
flat says it.
literally recognizes that every decision that
Walt.
yeah, sorry, mind blank. Yeah, Walter White Heisenberg made was for himself. Was for pride. It wasn't for his family. It wasn't for to try to like give his family a better life. It was because he didn't want to be a humble teacher. He wanted to be the man. He had to be the boss. I think that the whole story is beautiful in a dark kind of way.
Mm-hmm. You're good, Brandon.
Brenda.
Brendan was plugging his ears.
Oh, okay. You got to watch that show, dude. You'd
I
love
know. I'm getting
Very
around to
good.
it. I'm getting around to it.
Anyone have any last examples or?
Oh, the boys.
I haven't seen that yet.
You guys might know the
It's
scene that
very
I'm
good.
talking about, but like worshiping yourself. There's a scene where it's literally.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You guys haven't seen Boys?
I've seen it.
Oh,
I saw like the first episode and I was
Yeah.
I can do whatever I want. Is that what
Yeah.
you're talking about?
No, the other scene where he like transforms into
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that yeah, that too.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about
two
the end of.
Homelanders. Yeah.
I think end of season 2 when he's on the
Yeah.
roof.
For the Christians out there, maybe
Yeah.
consider not watching The Boys,
Yeah.
but
It's not a very Christian show.
yeah, no, but
it's
there's lessons in there.
it's a good story, I guess.
It's very.
It's a
good
little
story.
too over the top sometimes. I think
Mhm.
they just go for like the Game of Thrones shock value.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's not
Trying
my
to get a
favorite show.
reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should get to that.
Well, we can probably wrap her up. We're at an hour 23. I think it's our longest pod episode, so good stuff. But Milo, thank you so much for this is a topic of wisdom and humility. I hope those listening and watching can have taken at least something away, learn something. I know I learned a lot today. Just the importance of remembering that in order to be wise, we have to humble ourselves. We can't be putting ourselves above anyone else. Just like Christ came down onto earth, sent his son Jesus to die on the cross to forgive us. Like you said, Joey's, for example, like we need to make sure that we are humbling ourselves, forgiving other people. And like in the video, like I mentioned before, we can't be, when we're looking down at other people and being prideful, we can't have our eyes on Christ. We need to make sure we keep our eyes on Christ and not looking down at other people. Like the first 2 commandments, love God and no other idols, and love your neighbors like yourselves. I think that this wraps it up very nicely of just being humble, loving others just like Christ loved us as well. But thank you so much for listening. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, I want to mention one verse. Yeah, everybody that listens to this should read Proverbs. One verse that really hit me when I was younger was Proverbs 11:2. When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility is wisdom. That sums up
I love
Proverbs for me.
It's awesome. Yeah. But thank you everyone for listening. God bless you. We will catch you next time. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Campfire Council Podcast.
Why should you subscribe?
Because
because
there'll be a lot of great stuff to watch.
Because Joey said so.